Now this may seem a bit overly simplistic, but before we can start working in Excel we have to open up the program, and to do that I'm going to come down here and click on the Start button. Now I want you to know that I'm working in the Windows 7 operating system. Well, that's the operating system I have installed on my computer. You may have Windows Vista or Windows XP. It doesn't matter. They're all the same in that in the lower left hand corner of the desktop is the Start button. Go ahead and click on it because it opens up the Start menu. In the Start menu you can see I've got the top 5 recently used programs, and the least of which is my Microsoft Excel. When I hover over it, it lists the recently used files in that program. But if I just want to open up the program, I can just go ahead and click on it. If I don't find it here in my Start menu, of course I can come down here and click on All Programs. You want to scroll until you find the Microsoft Office folder, click on it to expand it, and there it is. Or you can come down here if you have Windows 7 or Vista, click in the Instant Search field and type in Excel, and there it is, and then come up here and click on it, opens up the program. Now this could get annoying in that if I close out of here and I need to open up the Excel program again and again and again, instead of having to go back to the Start button and coming up here, instead what I'd like to do is I'd like to create a shortcut of this program on my desktop or add it down here to my taskbar. And to do that, all I have to do is find the program. Well, it's up here. Go ahead and give it a right click. And if you have Windows 7, it's going to ask you, do you want to pin it to the taskbar? Go ahead and click on it, and it pins it down here on the taskbar. Now, if you want to send it as a shortcut to your desktop instead, you can go to All Programs or click in the Instant Search field and type in Excel, expand Microsoft Office, find the program here, and give it a right click. You can also pin it to the taskbar, but because we already have it pinned, I can go ahead and unpin it, but I'll leave it there. The next option is to send it as a shortcut to your desktop. Go ahead and click on it because when I click off in a blank area, there's the shortcut. So I have a shortcut to the program on my desktop, and then also down below pinned to my taskbar. The difference between the two is that I have to double click on the shortcut that's on my desktop to open up the program, whereas, let me close out, down here on the taskbar it's a single click. Makes it really nice. By the way, as a side note, let me go ahead and close out of here. Do you remember when we clicked on the Start button and we went up and Excel was here and we hovered over the Excel program and it opened up and it lists the 5 top files that we had or worked on in Excel? Well, in Windows 7, if you pin the program to your taskbar as we just did here, new to Windows 7 is that when you right click on it, it'll give you that jump list or the top 5. You can make it the top 10 or 20. You can have a huge list here of the files that you used or opened up or created in the Excel program, which is nice because then I don't have to search all over my computer to pull them back up. If it was a file that I recently used in the Excel program, I can just go ahead and say, well, the recently used file was convert, click on it, boom, it opens it up. Okay. Let me go ahead and close out of that. So that feature is only available in Windows 7. In any case, you can watch my Windows 7 training video. But let's go ahead and open up the Excel program. Like I said, I can open it up here with a single click or double click with the shortcut on my desktop. Now for a quick overview of the Excel 2010 program, I'm going to come up here up at the top and I'm going to work my way from left to right and then top to bottom. First of all, in the far left hand corner you have the green Excel icon or logo, it's that green X. And then to the right of that you have what's called a quick access toolbar. It's called that because you can quickly access the commands that are on that toolbar in a single click. And I'll show you how to customize that toolbar by adding or removing commands from the Quick Access toolbar in a later training video. Then to the right of that you have what's called the title bar. You see that dash? To the right of the dash you have the name of the program, which is Excel. To the left of it you have the generic name of the file or the workbook until you actually save it and give it a new name. Call it my sales workbook, my spiffy ledger workbook. Now as a side note, the reason why they call it a book or workbook is because think of it this way, when you open up a notebook that you go to school and you have sheets of paper, well, it's no different down here. You've got sheets of paper, worksheet 1, 2, and 3. So it's a book of sheets, so hence book or workbook. So when you save the file, you may have others that refer to it as the workbook file or your Excel workbook. And then down below you have what's called the ribbon. Now the ribbon and the Quick Access toolbar were first introduced back in Office 2007 in most of their applications. Not all of them, but most of them. And it continues on here in Office 2010. So what is the ribbon? Well, if you worked in previous versions of Office or Excel, earlier versions like 2003 and earlier, they used to have menus and toolbars. And the reason why Microsoft did away with menus and toolbars in favor of the ribbon and the Quick Access toolbar is because they felt that when it came to using the features or the full functionality of Excel, most of the features were hidden behind those menus and toolbars. Not a lot of people were taking full advantage of them. As opposed to the ribbon, where if you look on the ribbon, a lot of it's opened up here. In fact, some of the icons are huge where you can't miss it. Well, there's some binoculars. What does that do? Hover over it, gives you the pop-up, and it says if you want to go ahead and find and select specific text located throughout your worksheet here, click on that. Where in previous versions of Excel, like 2003 and earlier, they just had the teeny tiny icons. It's not as prominent as you see here. In fact, you'll notice that they can't squeeze all of the commands on the ribbon, so they have tabs up here, so you can go to other parts of the ribbon. So if I click on the Insert tab, there's additional buttons here or features, and you can see again that those icons are a lot larger. So people can see, it says picture and it looks like a picture. Well, if I want to insert a picture, just go ahead and click on it. So it's easier to spot and recognize icons than it is text and menus or tinier icons, okay? You can come along and look at the page layout, all the icons here or buttons that have an effect on the page layout, the print area or the area of the page that you'd like to print as opposed to printing the whole page, setting up your margins, the orientation, whether it's when you click on the drop down arrow, portrait or landscape, and you've got your formulas, functions, data review, and so on. Let me go back to the Home tab. Now on each tab they have what are called groups. You can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about because they have lines down here and each line is separating one group from the other. So you have the clipboard group, line, font group, line, alignment, and so on. And then within each group you have all of the icons that are pertaining to that group, like the font you want to use, the size of the font, whether you want to make that font bold, italics, underline, and so on. Now in some groups they may have more than what they can cram here, or they may have less commonly used features. So if you want more details, more specifics, look in the far right hand corner of the group and you get this little arrow. It's called the expandable dialog box button. It expands that group. Go ahead and click on it. Basically you're going to get the same features that you have in that group that you see in the group here on the ribbon, because you can see you've got your font Arial. You can select from any of the fonts listed here or select it from here on the ribbon. You also have extra things that aren't commonly used, and that's why they have it opened up here into this expandable window, like strike through. When you check it, look over here in the preview window. So if you have any text, when you check strike through and you click OK, that's what it's going to do. It's going to put a line through your text, okay? Of course, you don't see it up here. That's why they have it expand and open up for, well, less commonly used features. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that and click Cancel. You can see that most of these groups here on the Home tab have that expandable window there, except for some of them. In other words, what you see in this group is what you get. Okay, so below the ribbon we have over in the far left-hand corner, it's called the name box. It tells you what cell you're currently in. You can see I'm in cell, well, column A, row 1, which is cell A1. Going to come over here and click in another cell. You can see I'm in column G, row 11, so it's G11, the name of the cell. Then over here you have what's called the formula bar. So whatever cell you have selected, it'll not only display in the cell here, but if you can't see it all in the cell because the cells are kind of small, you'll be able to see it up here in the formula bar in more detail. And then below the name box and the formula bar, you actually have the worksheet. Now, a worksheet is a collection of cells, and in these cells, you would enter in your data. Now, let me explain it this way. Microsoft Excel is basically used for two reasons. Either as a database to go ahead and keep track of, well, if you had some customers or clients, you could go ahead and come over here and let's say type in the client's first name, their last name, their address, their phone number, and then below that have your second client's first name, last name, address, phone number, and so on. So you can use it as a database, and Excel will help you out quite a bit with sorting through your data. The second way that most people use Excel is to perform calculations, anywhere from simple arithmetic like addition, subtraction, multiplication, to complex functions and formulas like how to figure out my payments on a 30-year loan at a certain fixed interest rate. Or you can use it as a combination of both. Again, all of these cells make up a worksheet, and all of these sheets here, where you have at least 3 sheets, default sheets that you start with when you open up Excel, and these sheets make up your workbook, as it says in the title bar. Of course, you can change that and save it as my spiffy workbook or my sales workbook, as I just mentioned. And then you can, of course, add more worksheets. We'll cover that in a later training video. And below that, you have your status bar. You can right-click, and all the things that you see checked are the things that when you do certain things within the workbook, it'll give you like, well, the count, the average of a bunch of cells if you have numbers in there, and it will show up here down in your stat bar or your status bar. Then to the far right you have your different views. You have your normal view, you have your page layout, and then you have your page break. Of course, you can come up here on the ribbon, click on the View tab, and there's your normal page layout, page break. Let me go back to the Home tab. And then over to the right you have your zoom. So if you want to be able to zoom in and bring the numbers closer to you or your data or your text, go ahead and click on it and either zoom to the right to get closer to your cells, or zoom to the left to zoom out to be further away. I'm going to go ahead and go back to 100%. Now I saved the File tab up at the top for last, because basically that's the most prominent feature that changed if you used Excel 2007 in Excel 2010. It used to be an Office logo, just like the logo button down below on Windows 7, the Start button. Now it's the File tab. And what it does is when you click on the File tab, well, first of all, notice that when I click on these other tabs, only the ribbon changes. I can still see my worksheet. When I click on the File tab, it completely wipes out the worksheet. It didn't delete it. What it actually did is it moved you behind the scenes, or what Microsoft calls this as the backstage. Again, behind the scenes. So you're working with things behind the scenes if you want to be able to go ahead and save your workbook, open up another workbook, close this workbook, get more options. When you're done, you can come back up here and either click on one of the other tabs and go back to the front stage and make changes to your Excel workbook. This kind of messed me up at first because I thought, oh great, they brought the File menu back. You know how you used to click on the File menu in previous versions of Excel and it opened up a little menu right here? Well, not in 2010. When you click on it, it wipes the whole thing out and you're completely behind the curtains or backstage. Okay? Click on File tab again. Now I'm back to where I started.